How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge. 5000 today is June 11th, 2021, and today we're going to focus on the tropical Atlantic hurricane season and what could become Tropical Storm Bill into next week. And we'll also talk about the Eastern Pacific, where we could see tropical cyclone development next week as well. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather records. Make sure to like if you like this video, and make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather records. So let's begin by taking a look at the IR loop for the entire Atlantic at this point. And you see that there is a good amount of areas where we do see convection. We have convection coming just off the eastern African coast. However, sea surface temperatures aren't warm enough to really support any tropical cyclone development from this tropical wave, so nothing to worry about here. We also have a tropical wave that's entering South America at this point, but it's too far south and too close to the equator to really get any sort of tropical cyclone development going, since the Coriolis effect is too weak when the tropical wave is this far south, and tropical waves require at least a decent amount of the Coriolis effect to really get its rotation going and to really speed up the convection of these tropical disturbances. And we also have a little bit of an upper level low that's centered just right around the western Caribbean, which is bringing some wind shear to the region and some thunderstorm activity. And we also have a little bit of a tropical wave that's also just off the coast of Honduras at this point, and we have another surface low that's located right around this area as well. So we need to pay close attention to this, and because this could become our next tropical cyclone into the Gulf of Mexico. And we also have convection occurring in the Eastern Pacific as well. So there's a lot to look at right around the Gulf of Mexico and the Western Caribbean at this time, since there is a lot of convection and we are seeing an influx of moisture head into this region. So in terms of what the National Hurricane Center is forecasting for the Eastern Pacific, we do have two areas where there is a chance of tropical cyclone development. We have one that currently has a 40% chance of tropical cyclone formation over the next 5 days, or a medium chance. However, this is expected to go out to sea, and I don't expect it to have much of a future, so it isn't much of anything to worry about out in the open Pacific. However, we do have another disturbance that's pretty much hugging the Mexico coast at this point, the western Mexican coast, and you see that it is too close for comfort for the country of Mexico, and where we do have a medium 50% chance of tropical cyclone formation. And this disturbance is not only interesting because because of how it'll impact Mexico, it's the long-term future beyond 5 days, where we could see this tropical disturbance move into the Gulf of Mexico and feed it some cyclonic vorticity to maybe originate our next tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico, which would be Tropical Storm Bill. So this is certainly something to watch, not only for Mexico but for the entire Gulf Coast, since this disturbance could be key in developing the next tropical cyclone in the Atlantic. However, in the Atlantic side of things, we of course only have one disturbance we are taking a look at, and it currently has a low percent chance of developing, 20% chance over the next 5 days. However, like I've been saying in my previous videos, I do expect that there's a good chance that beyond the 5 day mark, the chances increase, because once this tropical disturbance in the Eastern Pacific moves further northward, there's going to be a lot more energy in the Gulf of Mexico for some sort of tropical cyclone to form in the Gulf of Mexico, and there's a higher possibility of that occurring. And I noticed that if we take a look at the computer models are leading more towards a wind shear winding down in the Gulf of Mexico in the long-term future, which is beyond 5 days. Of course, when we're talking about forecasts beyond 5 days, we have to take it with a grain of salt because a lot could change till then. However, the fact that we're seeing the chance increase in the longer term future beyond 48 hours out, it could mean that in the even longer term future, I'm talking about beyond 5 days, that chance will increase to potentially maybe a medium chance of tropical cyclone formation, which could mean that tropical storm Bill could form in the Gulf of Mexico and pose a threat to a lot of the Gulf Coast. So we need to keep a close eye on that. In terms of the water temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean at this time, you see that the sea surface temperatures are more than warm enough to support tropical cyclone development. Or we do see areas where the sea surface temperatures are above 27 degrees Celsius, pretty much for the entire Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean, which is above the 80-degree mark. And even in the Gulf of Mexico, in the southern Gulf of Mexico, we see those readings go up to 29 degrees Celsius, which is almost towards the mid 80-degree range. So there's certainly the sea surface temperatures are certainly warm enough to support just very tropical cyclone development over the next several days. However, we need more than, of course, warmer than average warm sea surface temperatures to develop a tropical cyclone. And we're going to take a look at those factors right now by taking a look at the GFS model. In terms of the humidity and the moisture in the atmosphere, you see that there's a lot of now the Gulf of Mexico is filled with moisture, which is a stark contrast from what we've been seeing in the previous days, where a lot of dry air was entrained throughout the Gulf of Mexico and the Western Caribbean. However, that has changed as a result of an influx of surface low pressure systems moving up Central America and bringing more moisture and humidity closer to the Gulf of Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula. So as a result, now the moisture is warm enough to support at least some sort of tropical cyclone development in the future, and that's certainly something to be concerned about. If we move on into even the longer term future, you see that moisture doesn't really go anywhere, as we're gonna see a ridge. We're gonna see this ridge sort of that was centered over that was centered closer to the east coast move further eastward, and there's going to be just enough of a weakness in ridging in this region to where the moisture that you see centered towards South America, the northern countries of South America at this point, this ridge will steer a lot of that moisture further up northward as a result of southeasterly winds over the Caribbean at this point. So all the moisture you see in South America, which is anomalous at this time, it is going to move further northward. So that'll keep the humidity there for several days in the long-term future, which is something very interesting to watch, and it could pose a threat of tropical cyclone development over the next several days. So we need to keep a close eye on that. And you see that behind it, we continue to see more moisture in coming off the African coast at this point, the Western African coast, and it's going to continue that flow of moisture into the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico, as there's sort of going to be a monsoon type event right around the Western African coast, which will bring a lot of moisture to the Western Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico over the next several days. So moisture won't be really much of a problem over the next several days. It could certainly change. This is still very long term in the future, and if we go beyond 5 days, we of course see a lot of dry air in train throughout the United States, and there is certainly that possibility that maybe the computer models screw up this forecast a little bit, and we see more dry air into the Gulf of Mexico. However, at this time, it seems like we're going to see an influx of moisture throughout the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean. However, that is far from the only factor we need to take a look at. We also need to take a look at the wind shear in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And if we were to take a look at the wind shear right now, we do see a decent amount of wind shear over the Gulf of Mexico at this point, and we're seeing that wind shear in train go through a lot of the Caribbean Sea at this point. So tropical cyclone development at this point, for the most part, is non-conducive, and you see that we do see a little bit of the upper level low I was talking to you about in the Caribbean, bringing those upper level winds, and we of course see some another upper level low located just off the coast of Texas at this point, and so it's bringing a little bit of it's bringing strong it's bringing strong southwesterly upper level winds throughout the Gulf of Mexico. However, if we were to move forward with the forecast, while the wind shear does begin to continue, there's going to be a point where the wind shear will wind down, and while the wind shear won't completely go away beyond the 5 day mark, it's gonna certainly not only lighten, but the wind shear will sort of coincide with the trade winds. The While the upper level winds will sort of coincide with the trade winds, which do move up north right around this region, right around the Tropic of Cancer line, and since it's going to move up north along with the lower level winds that are being induced by this ridge, we're gonna see the winds sort of coincide a little bit, and that could make it conducive for tropical cyclone development to occur beyond the 5 day mark, which is something certainly we need to keep in watch of. There's still a lot of uncertainty regarding the upper level winds, because we're forecasting this beyond 5 days out, but still, it's certainly something we need to keep a close eye on over the next several days, because we could see a tropical cyclone arise from this light wind shear, and the European model is currently forecasting some sort of tropical cyclone to form beyond the 5 day mark. If we were to take a look at the European model's forecast, 7 days from now, you see that the European is currently forecasting some sort of tropical cyclone to form beyond the 5 day mark, which would be Tropical Storm Bill, and it's going to move in a northward direction, not only because the upper level winds will move northward, but the lower level winds will also move northward as a result of the weakness and ridging in this region. So we're going to see this storm. So if a tropical cyclone were to form, it's most likely going to move up northward and impact the Gulf Coast states, which is something certainly we need to keep a close eye on over the next several days, because you see that that the European is forecasting a tropical cyclone to form just south of Mexico, and as it makes landfall, we're going to see that cyclonic energy move further northward and into the Gulf of Mexico, and it could move into an environment where the wind shear will be light enough, the water temperatures will be more than warm enough, and we're going to see more than enough moisture to support tropical cyclone development. So this is something certainly we need to keep in mind. Again, there's still a lot of uncertainty. We need to see how strong that wind shear will be, and we're gonna become more certain of the upper level winds once we head closer to the event, and we also need to see how much dry air there will be, because while the current forecast from the GFS model is the dry air will be limited in the Gulf of Mexico, we have to also keep in mind that there's going to be just a ton of dry air in the eastern half of the United States, and there could maybe be that possibility, or that margin of error possibility, that dry air moves into the Gulf of Mexico and inhibits tropical cyclone development. So we need to keep a close eye on the relative humidity in the Gulf of Mexico over the next several days. And now, with the latest update, we do see the dry air entrain the eastern half of this storm, which could inhibit tropical cyclone development, which is just a thing I was talking to you guys about. But now the GFS model, as we speak, is updating, and now it expects dry air to entrain the western half of the Gulf of Mexico, which could inhibit tropical cyclone development. But again, we need to wait and see, because there's still a lot of uncertainty regarding the forecast, because I'm forecasting this almost 7 days out, so a lot to unfold over the next several days. But I'll make sure to keep you guys updated as we get more certain with the forecast, and we will determine whether we will see Tropical Storm Bill over the coming days or not. So yeah, guys, for at least the Gulf of Mexico, I'd say to at least be aware of this low pressure system, because it could potentially impact your area along Gulf Coast. So at least be aware of it and pay attention to your local forecast over the next several days. But I thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather-related content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather-related content. And I hope you guys have a good day.